What's good, everybody? It's your man Big Dom coming live and at you another True Players Podcast episode, hitting you with the in-your-face, unedited, straight, blunt talk about sports, finances, relationships, current events, and many other topics along the way. Check out my next episode. What's good? What's good, everybody? It's your man Big Dom coming live and at you another True Players Podcast episode with my brother Matthew from Jacobin Sports Show and Knicks Bleav Pod. You know, I had to get him back on this show because we had to talk about, it's October. NBA training camp is about to open up. So we got to get him involved and talk about Knicks basketball, So I know you guys are excited to talk about NBA. It's been a minute, but, with the FIBA tournament, kind of kept us in the loop with some of our Knicks players and a lot of other NBA players on the staff. But, we're going to talk about a couple of things. Trade of Lillard to the Bucks and Jrue Holiday going from the Portland Trail Blazers to the Celtics. So let me let Matt introduce himself to the people.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be here, Dom.
Cool, definitely. All right, so let's get right into it. The reason I had to have you on the show was because
big trades.
Big trade. It was a big trade that probably I don't know if it shook the NBA world, but it shook the New York Knicks world because I quite frankly believed that had that trade not happened, I could have seen Giannis in the uniform this year.
So I think that the Lillard trade makes it much more like he's probably going to stay in Milwaukee. It is worth noting, he's saying that he's not going to sign right now because he can qualify for much more money if he waits a year. So it's in his interest to say, I'm not signing for a year.
Mm-hmm.
But it does mean that for another year, he is still not under contract with them. And we see teams all the time that make a move that wins the offseason, and everybody knows what it's going to mean. And a year later, landscape is completely different. So I do feel that Milwaukee did the thing they had to do to say to him, look, we're committed. When you were concerned before, we got Jrue. You're concerned now, we got Lillard. You would think he's staying, but you know how it is. Until his name is signed, he's not signed, and things can get very weird from one year to another. If Lillard gets hurt, if I don't know, if Chris Middleton can't stay healthy, then they lose in the second round. Is he a lock to stay next year? I don't know.
That's some valuable points you just brought up because you always got to be concerned with Lillard's health. You always got to be concerned with Middleton's health. And that's what's been holding the Bucks back all these years is the health of the other guys. You know what I'm saying? Middleton, sometimes Jrue Holiday, when he was on the team, he was hurt as well. So that's something that I'm still holding out hope that we do see Giannis in the Knicks uniform by next season. Because conceivably, that's the only trade that's will put the Knicks over the top. I'm not a believer in Joel Embiid as a guy that will put the Knicks over the top. I'm definitely not a believer in the other. They mentioned some other player, but I don't forgot who he was. But is that something that I would like to? I don't want to entertain Embiid on the team because Embiid has only been shown to be a great regular season player, but when he gets to the playoffs, it's always something with his knee.
If you want reason to be I want at least a little part of it to think that there's still a chance. So my brain might be reaching, but Brook Lopez is like 35.
Mm-hmm.
Lillard is 33. Middleton is 32 and is not like been the healthiest 32-year-old on the face of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a reason to think, like, again, gotta see what happens, but maybe that's probably just my brain like wanting a reason to hope. I feel concerned about Embiid mostly in the sense that if they got him, he would have just hit 30, and I don't get the sense that Joel Embiid is a guy who's gonna like peak in his early 30s. Like I feel like that's probably somebody whose best days are right now, and every time that man hits the floor, I do it at home too. You hear it though at the arena. Every time he hits the floor in the home arena, everybody gasps. I'm at
Mm-hmm.
home and I gasp.
Mm-hmm.
I could not live through 3 years of that. I think he's awesome, and I think Embiid in a playoff series with Jalen Brunson there
Mm-hmm.
could be like very interesting. Like I would be very interested to see what he could do, especially because now I think the East is starting to get shook up a little different. I think I don't think Boston is as dangerous over a full season as they were before they made the moves that they made.
Mm-hmm.
So if Embiid were a Knick, if you could trade RJ and Fournier and Mitch and a couple of picks and get Embiid, like they would be dangerous, but I wouldn't want to sign up for like 4 years of it.
Right.
That's the thing. But Giannis to the Knicks, I still got my fingers crossed, but this did not help, man. This did not help at all.
Not at all. Not at all. But what would be a typical trade scenario for you that you would come up with to bring Giannis here?
Well, you wouldn't have to give up a lot because he's approaching free agency. So if it's just a question of what dollars would you give, you obviously give him the max. It's a question of like if you had if he gave the Bucks like a 1 year notice.
Mm-hmm.
So like to do them a favor and be like, look, I'm leaving. You might as well get what you can. I'll give you a 1 year notice. What
Mm-hmm.
would it take to get him? I think you would have to be looking at RJ, Quickley, possibly Mitch, uh, possibly Grimes,
Mm-hmm.
and picks.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of picks and swaps. Like three, probably like 4 or 5 picks and swaps.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it would take. But that's a lot to pay for a guy. And we're getting back to like Carmelo territory. There's a lot to pay for a guy who could be a free agent in a year.
Right.
And he seems, and this is not a slam at all on Carmelo. If you're about getting paid and you got paid, like I respect that. You made it happen. But I don't think Giannis is driven. But like Carmelo was never coming in free agency because he was able to get more in a extension and then be traded by Denver. That's why he made it be a trade and not just wait another 2 months and go to free agency. And that's why the Knicks lost Gallinari and Wilson Chandler and the draft pick that became Jamal Murray and all this other stuff. Giannis
Mm-hmm.
does not at all seem to me driven by the same motivation. Like he seems to me like if he wanted to come to the Knicks and he knows what it would cost to trade for him, he would be more likely to wait.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know. I mean, I guess it would come down to like a team could say, like maybe another team could say they would pay more, but then you get back kind of this Lillard quandary of what if Giannis tells the Bucks like I don't want to go to this other place, like I want to go to the Knicks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. We saw that can work and not work. That's the position Miami thought they were in with Lillard. They
Mm-hmm.
thought like, okay, we're the only ones at the table. You got to deal with us. And Portland was like, yeah, watch this, and got a good deal. But Giannis is at such a position of power, and you would think like I know Lillard is an icon in Portland, but like there's something different when you are the MVP of a team that you led to a title and you are still in your prime. Lillard is none of those things. He's incredible, but he never won a title, and he's 33. Giannis is like 28 or something,
Yeah.
and he's the man who did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I would think he's done enough for the Bucks that if he was like, I want to go to the Knicks, they would look to make like a reasonable deal and make it happen.
Right.
But again, this is all fingers crossed.
But let
I'm
me.
curious what you think about, because I've heard a lot of praise for Boston because they've gotten like an upswing in their talent. They brought in Porzingis, now they bring in Jrue Holiday. Like their high-end talent is higher than it was a year ago. And a lot of people seem to feel like when they made the Holiday trade, they kind of leapfrogged Milwaukee to be like the best team in the East again. Do you feel that Boston is more of a title contender now than they were at the end of last season with the moves that they made? Do you feel they're the same? Like, how do you feel about where they are versus a year ago?
Boston, I think they lost some toughness when they traded away Marcus Smart, and they lost toughness when they traded. I Bleav they also traded Robert Williams to Portland to get Jrue Holiday. Now, if there's a way that they could have gotten Jrue Holiday and then still would have kept Smart and Robert Williams, then you talking about the Celtics #1 in the East.
Mm-hmm.
But is that still enough to beat the Nuggets? Because the Joker is a whole on another level.
Yeah. I don't like the idea, if you're a title contender, of like you need Kristaps Porzingis to be available at least like 70 games, and he never is.
Right.
Like again, it's not a slander. This is just the medical reality of the man. Like he's going to miss at least 15 to 20 games every year, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Your season is dependent now. They have lost, so they picked up talent, but as far as depth to their front court, they lost Robert Williams.
Mm-hmm.
They also lost Grant Williams. So right now, if you look at Milwaukee's three best big men, it's Giannis, Brook Lopez, and then Bobby Portis. Bobby Portis is 6th man of the year caliber big man. That's a legit 3-man front court. You go to the Celtics right now after these moves, it's Porzingis, who you're hoping is healthy,
Mm-hmm.
Al Horford, who is not a young man, and then the third guy is Luke Cornett. Now, Luke Cornett, much love, one-time Knick. His mother used to read my articles. She's a very sweet lady. God bless you, Mrs. Cornett. But if Luke Cornett is the third man in your big man rotation, I don't think you're a title contender.
Ooh,
I mean, think about it. If I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, like your best big man, Porzingis, is always injured.
Yes.
Your second best big man, Al Horford, has had a great career and has stayed solid and pretty much available, but he's closer to the end than the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's Luke Cornett. So best case scenario, you shrug your shoulders at that and be like, what? Best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I was saying before with Embiid. Like, is Boston who they were before? I don't think so. Is Milwaukee better than they were before? I think so. Like I think they're better. But again, they got a lot of old guys. So when you're looking at, if I'm Embiid, just saying, like if I'm Embiid and like the Harden thing does not work out, and I'm looking like I want to get out of here, the Knicks are not a bad place to go.
Right.
To contend immediately. They're not a bad at all place to go. Miami's not where they were a year ago at all.
Mm-hmm.
Who's better in the East? Maybe Cleveland.
Ooh.
Are you worried about Cleveland? Are you like afraid of Cleveland?
No, I'm not afraid of Cleveland.
You're afraid of Cleveland? You afraid of Philadelphia without Harden?
No.
Nope. You afraid of Boston if they're healthy? Yeah. If KP's out and Luke Cornett's playing 30 minutes, I'm going to watch him go against Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle for 30 minutes.
I just think we match up better against Boston no matter who they bring in.
Absolutely agree. And not only do the Knicks match up pretty well with Boston, but they do not match up well with Milwaukee. They actually match up a little better now because a year ago, Milwaukee had, at every position, the Knicks had someone of strength. Milwaukee had like a great defensive player. So the Knicks have Randall, but Giannis plays his position and he's defensive player of the year kind of player. The Knicks had RJ. Chris Middleton's like a pretty good defensive player. And then the Knicks got Brunson, but the Bucks had Jrue Holiday.
Right.
At least now we know how good Lillard is shooting the ball, but I feel better about the Knicks going against the Bucks, Brunson against Lillard, than I did Brunson against Holiday.
Yeah.
because I could see Holiday like making it his business to bother Brunson, whereas I could see Lillard scoring 30 a game and Brunson scoring like 26.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I think Matt, it's just a scenario which, do I wish they could have got Lillard too? I wish that too. But what the problem is I got to argue with somebody on Facebook about Jrue Holiday, and I mentioned to him that listen, the Knicks don't need Jrue Holiday because he's the same thing as Brunson in the sense of he's a point guard, not as ball dominant as Brunson. Will he be able to take the pressure of Brunson to bring the ball up the court every possession? Yes, but I gotta look at it this way: Jrue Holiday's 33 years old. You got guys like Quentin Grimes who could develop into that player. You got Quickly, which play season, postseason, be damned. Regular season, he's been good, but now the questions for IQ now is what can he do once the playoffs start? And last season, this past postseason, was not a good thing to look at because I felt his lack of contribution cost the Knicks a trip to the East Conference Finals.
he struggled big time.
I felt the Knicks could have overcame whatever mental issues Julius Randle was having if IQ was playing his game.
If regular season IQ had been there in the playoffs, like they at least take Miami to 7 games, and they might beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And I think all really for what we've seen from Quickley over the years, like he's going into a year now where he's trying to get like a new deal. He's trying to show the Knicks and the league like what he can do. If he's going to be on another team, he's trying to audition like different. I think he's going to be very motivated, and I think a motivated Quickley is probably going to be great. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he has struggled in both playoff years. He was a rookie his first year. He struggled against Atlanta. The whole team basically struggled against Atlanta. But at least, Quickley also brings defense, like really, really, really great defense. And that's one reason why I feel like he always has something to bring. He's at least the kind of player, if a shot's not falling, he gets some assists.
Mm-hmm.
He gets some stops.
Mm-hmm.
He takes some pressure. He can handle some ball handling. Like, I think he's going to have a big year.
Now, what do you feel about DiVincenzo signing?
I'm very excited about DiVincenzo. A lot of so there's a lot of evidence that he's a good defensive player in the way that Thibodeau likes players to be, but he also brings an added element where DiVincenzo is actually a defensive, like he gets takeaways. Like a lot of the Knicks are good on they're good defensive and the system is good, but I think guards especially they don't get takeaways. They get stops, but they don't get takeaways. DiVincenzo through his career, but especially when he went to Golden State, which was a better team than he had been on to that point. All kinds of defensive lineups, you see that like he is a impactful person getting steals and turnovers, and there's his teams have more transition opportunities when he's in the game because of that defense, and he can shoot, but he can also play make a little. I'm very excited about DiVincenzo. I always liked watching him back in Milwaukee when he first came into the league. I thought he was a nice, interesting player, and I was very excited to see how he would look in Golden State, and he looked like a lot of people who go there really good. And I'm happy the Knicks got him. I think because I also think the presence of a DiVincenzo protects the Knicks more as they go and make some kind of trade for a star, because probably whoever the Knicks trade for, they're going to want like Quentin Grimes and or Quickley. Those are two very different kinds of guards. DiVincenzo gives you cover for both of them to some extent. He gives you shooting if you lose Grimes. He gives you a little more like on the dribble stuff and secondary playmaking like Quickley does. So I think Thibodeau likes to have multi-dimensional players, and DiVincenzo is a multi-dimensional player who can shoot, which is also not often a Knick. The more people who can shoot, the better.
So me ask you a question. I saw some things in the tournament, the FIBA tournament.
Hmm.
RJ Barrett had, you know, that's my guy. I'm not gonna sit there and lie to you. That's my guy. I'm rooting for him.
Hmm.
He had some up games where he was the top star for Canada, and he had some down games. I know he's working hard on his mid range game. I seen it on Twitter how hard he works on the mid range game, his mid range game, and all that stuff. But I just need him to be what he was as a rookie, the full all around player that I saw when he was a rookie, as far as the defensive side of the ball, driving to the basket, the quickness. I saw that he didn't have that same quickness this past season. And I'm really hoping he gets back to that quickness that he had to get to the basket, go to the basket strong, and finish. Your thoughts?
I have always felt that RJ and Randall don't work together. Like ultimately, like they're both okay, but they don't work together as well as they would apart. And I think if Barrett could survive whatever trade brings the Knicks, whoever their big star is,
Mm-hmm.
I think that like Barrett could like explode and like Barrett. Interestingly, like since he went to college, like when Barrett committed to Duke, he was like the top prospect in the country. Zion Williamson was originally going to be in the following year's class. Very late in the game, Zion reclassified and went to Duke, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people were surprised because that put Barrett and Cam Reddish and Zion, who were all top 10 prospects, all
Mm-hmm.
top 10 wings at the same school, and like none of them are really shooters. And
Right.
at Duke, like they could overwhelm that just because of the talent and because of Zion. But I remember looking at doing draft previews for Barrett that year, and like the shooting numbers were really not good. And
Right.
ever since he got to the NBA, he's on a team where Mitchell Robinson is always down the floor as a center. Julius Randle is always on the floor at power forward. There's not a lot of spacing. Even for the success Randle has had at times, he's not a classic, like, he's not sitting there scaring the defense. He's more off the dribble stuff or creating for himself.
Mm-hmm.
So he's never played with spacing really, maybe since high school. So when we
Mm-hmm.
judge RJ, I feel like you always have to consider like he's never been put in position to do what he does
Mm-hmm.
because there's always someone in his way. But if he can come through this season with just like show more playmaking and mindfulness like on the drive, he's not going to ever have like the touch of Brunson like at the rim. But
Right.
if RJ can pull up sometimes on a drive and kick out to the shooter on the wing or in the corner instead of forcing the drive to the basket that you're not going to finish,
Right.
but just know that like you've already done the job. Like once you've driven into the paint, you've done your job. Now trust your teammates and kick out. If he could bring that kind of presence this year, that could take them to like a whole other level. And he's
Right.
23 years old. Like
Yeah.
people talk all the time about RJ Barrett like he's some 10-year veteran. He's 23 years old.
Yeah.
He's probably going to get better. No guarantee, but he's probably going to get better.
Right. Well, I'm rooting for both of us. I hope he does get better. But I like what you said with Randall's is clogging things up for him. And I feel if the Knicks do happen to get Giannis, you have to trade Randall away. Whether Giannis comes as a free agent or not, you have to get rid of Randall to make it
You
work.
would you'd probably have to reroute him in a different deal because it seems unlikely if the Bucks are going to trade Giannis, they're not going to want Julius Randle's 28. He's going to be on a new deal. Like they're going to have no interest in that. You would have to move Randle because you can't play Giannis obviously in Randle, but you'd have to move him in some kind of a separate deal, probably first.
Mm-hmm. I think I believe I'm just envisioning it. I know you are too. Giannis and Mitchell Robinson at the center and power forward position. RJ at the wing, which with Giannis opens up everything for everybody. He's not a clogger. He's not going to clog the lane, and he's not a ball stopper. The ball will move. You have Jalen Brunson pretty much handling the rock most of the time, getting easy shots for Giannis, getting easy shots for everybody else, as well as getting his own shot. I'm just envisioning how this could work with this team if it does happen. That's hopeful. Right now, We don't know what's going to happen.
I think that if you're gonna have Mitch and Giannis and RJ, like, you better have guards who could shoot. Like, that's a great lineup, but nobody is gonna be playing uptight on any of those three from anywhere. Like,
Right.
but it would be interesting to see, because I'm not sure. Randall doesn't fit with Giannis. I'm not sure how well RJ fits with Giannis.
Mm-hmm.
Mitch and Giannis, you've got to have shooters around them because Mitch is not shooting anything.
Right.
And Giannis's career really took off after Brooklyn. I mean, he was obviously going to be great, but getting Brook Lopez opened up everything,
Right.
just by giving him a five who's not there. They can play they can play five out. It would be interesting to me what they would do with Mitch if they got Giannis, because a player like Hartenstein would actually seem like more of a natural fit, even though Mitch is a vastly superior player. I wonder what they would do. That would be interesting. It would be interesting to see how the Knicks would reshape if they were able to bring in Giannis.
Got you. One last question before we end the podcast here. Why is Fournier still on the team?
Fournier is still on the team because the Knicks, I think, are probably ideally holding on to him to use as a $19 million chip in a trade that they make for a big player salary. Teams who would be interested in trading for Fournier, he's an expiring contract. Like, they're not really going to give you much of consequence for that. And as long as the Knicks are feeling like Fournier is a chip, he's an item on a budget, but he's a helpful item. He's a $19 million item on a budget. So they're not going to trade. Like, Team X might want Fournier and offer you a second round pick for him, but that second round pick does not help you as much to trade for Giannis as that $19 million budget item does.
Mm-hmm.
So no one's going to pay. Like, Fournier means much more to the Knicks as a trade item than he does to anyone as a player.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not going to go anywhere, I don't think.
And that's going to create some issues in the locker room.
We'll see. Like, so that'll be an interesting thing. We've had 3 years under Tom Thibodeau, and Tom Thibodeau has a reputation as, he can seem like a tough guy to play for.
Mm-hmm.
In 3 years with Tom Thibodeau, there really has not been one peep from anybody besides Cam Reddish, whose situation was a little different. There really hasn't been anybody complaining too much about their job or how they've been treated or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had, he had to deal with benching Alfred Payton, and everybody was calling for that for like a while before he did it. He had to deal with no one's ever had an issue. So Fournier has normally seemed like, pretty, he was okay with it, but everything coming out of him sounds like that man has had enough. But he really has no leverage.
You're right.
So unfortunately, until Superstar X shows up, Fournier is going to be here.
Got you. All right. So, I wish we could talk some more, Matt. Definitely. But we're gonna jump on another episode closer to when training camp officially starts. We're gonna get a full board. We're gonna see what everybody says, the press conferences, all that fun stuff. That we're gonna make a determination on the season. I expect the Knicks to at least make the second round this year. The East is not that good, unfortunately. Brooklyn, I believe, is a big man, a real strong big man away from being a top team in the East. You got Dinwiddie, and you got Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Those are three good cornerstones for the Nets. And you got Claxton in the middle, but they need that big. They need that big to really. Just imagine if the Nets end up getting Embiid. How different that would look.
I don't like to picture that.
No.
I just saw that in my head, and I'm like, nope.
It could be scary in New York again. It could be scary.
I'm going to keep thinking positive thoughts.
Exactly. But one last thing, Matt, before we go. We're both Mets fans. We don't. I haven't spoken about the Mets except that 2 episodes with you, and another episode I did on a different time about the Mets. I did mention in my last episode I did yesterday. the firing of Buck Showalter and the effect it had on Pete Alonso to the point that he wanted to confront the owner about it. What's your take on that?
So, two separate issues. I didn't think Showalter deserved to be fired. I understand the logic of I'm bringing in this person that I've wanted for years to run my operation, and I'm going to let that person run it from day one the way that they want to. Like, I understand that logic, but I think it just demonstrates the insanity of the industry that a guy who last year led you to the most wins any Met team besides the '86 team has ever had, and who was manager of the year. Then the next year, your two aces alternate between not pitching like aces and getting traded. And Buck Showalter, and your closer is injured before the season even begins for the year. So Buck Showalter gets fired. Like, it's obviously not fair and it makes no sense. And it upsets me more than usual because I really like Buck Showalter. I like listening to him talk about baseball. I like watching him manage. I like that he is one of the last managers who he's a dying breed, but like back in the day, when you watched games, like there were styles and there were managers who had systems and philosophy. You watched Tony La Russa, like you knew what kind of game it was going to be, and it wasn't going to be the same as when you watched Whitey Herzog or when you watched, but Showalter, I don't think he deserved it. As far as Alonso goes, I think it's fine that Pete felt that way. It's fine that he expressed it. I don't know that it really matters. Given, and I don't know if this is related or not, but given how much noise there's been this year about Alonso, and just the other day in the press, I don't know if this is related, but just the other day there was a report that broke somewhere about the Cubs being like extremely interested in trading for Alonso. Agents drop things and players and teams have agendas, but like we know Alonso could be gone anyway, so I don't know how much it matters. This isn't Lindor getting really pissed. This is Alonso. Like, Lindor is not going anywhere. Alonso might be going somewhere. So, but I don't think this affects that.
What I mentioned in my last episode was like, Pete, just get your money and then talk about that later. You're on the team next year. I like Polar Bear. I like him on the team. I think a lot of the issues that was brought up by the media, I think was media driven. To be honest with you, after 3-4 years in the league, all of a sudden he's a clubhouse cancer. That doesn't make any sense to me. That honestly did not make any sense to me. He's like the best Met as far as promotional wise since David Wright. So all of a sudden now he's a bad teammate. He's locker room cancer. I think that's lies.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
So what can we do next year, right?
Next year in Jerusalem.
Yes. All right, everybody. We're going to have to sign off on this podcast. It's been a pleasure having you guys join us on the podcast. Any final words, Matt?
No, check us out at Jacobin Sports Show. JACOBIN. I just had last week Warren Light on, who was the showrunner for Law and Order SVU and Criminal Intent, and we were talking a lot about the WGA strike, but also some Mets and some Knicks at the end of the conversation. He's a big Mets and Knicks fan, and also keep an ear out for the Bleav Knicks pod, BLEAV Knicks. We're getting ready for some preseason stuff, and also talking about the Liberty as they advance to the WNBA finals against the Las Vegas Aces. So look out for that too. Bleav Knicks, BLEAV.
Definitely. It's your man Big Dom. We're about to sign up. You can watch the podcast on YouTube, Patreon. You can listen to audio on Spotify, Anchor, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and any of the podcasts that is shown that has audio podcasts. I am on it. Looking forward to be joining you guys also on Amazon. We're working through the kinks for that to get me on Amazon and Pandora. So we're going to work through those kinks. And for now, it's your man Big Dom. Sign off for Matt. I'll talk to you on the next episode. Peace.
Peace, everybody.